All right, so today we're going to be diving into one of the most, I guess you could say, infamous cases in American history.
Oh, yeah.
Charles Manson and the Manson family murders.
The Manson family, yep.
Now, you probably think you know this story.
Yeah.
But trust me, this is not your typical
Oh,
Manson deep dive.
it's not your, run-of-the-mill Charles Manson story.
Right.
We're using Chaos by Tom O'Neill as our guide. So, Tom O'Neill dedicated over 2 decades to investigating this case.
Wow.
And let me tell you, he uncovered some seriously unsettling stuff
Yeah.
that really challenges the official narrative.
Absolutely. See, for years we've been told that Manson was this
Right.
evil mastermind
Right.
who orchestrated these murders to start a race war,
Yeah.
the whole helter-skelter scenario. But
Right.
O'Neill throws a major wrench into that theory.
Yeah, he does. Right off the bat, O'Neill highlights how Manson was constantly in and out of prison, often released under very mysterious circumstances.
Okay, that's already giving me chills.
It raises the question, was someone pulling the strings?
Yeah.
Was Manson a pawn in a bigger game?
And this leads us to one of the most, I think, intriguing aspects of O'Neill's research.
Yeah.
The potential connection to the CIA
Okay.
and their mind control experiments in the 1960s.
Yeah, you're probably thinking, wait, what?
Yeah.
But it turns out that the CIA was heavily involved in a top-secret program called MKUltra,
Right.
where they experimented with LSD and other mind-altering drugs, trying to develop techniques for mind control.
Wow.
And this was all happening right around the time that Manson was living in Haight-Ashbury,
Uh-huh.
a hotbed of counterculture and, you guessed it, LSD experimentation.
Yeah, and O'Neill points out that Manson was actually involved in some shady drug experiments at a free clinic in Haight-Ashbury.
Yeah.
Now, while he doesn't explicitly say Manson was part of MKUltra,
Right.
he definitely raises the possibility that Manson could have either been a subject or, even more disturbing,
Oh, yeah.
learned some of those mind control techniques and later used them on his family.
Just imagine the implications if someone with Manson's charisma and manipulative tendencies had access to mind control techniques.
Right.
It paints a whole new picture of his influence over his followers.
It's mind-blowing. Now, let's talk about the Manson family itself.
Okay.
This group was mostly made up of young, impressionable people drawn to Manson's magnetic personality.
Sure.
They ended up living on Spawn Movie Ranch,
Right.
an abandoned film set.
Yeah, like their own little world, totally isolated from mainstream society.
Yeah, and then you have this other world, the glamorous world of 1960s Hollywood,
Right.
symbolized by a 1050 Cielo Drive,
Oh, yeah.
the home of Sharon Tate and Roman Polanski.
Okay.
This address was a magnet for Hollywood's elite and counterculture figures.
It was.
So you have these two worlds colliding, and the tension is palpable.
Oh, yeah, it is. It's almost like you can feel it.
And that collision culminates in the horrific events of August 9th, 1969, when Sharon Tate, who was 8.5 months pregnant,
Oh, my God.
along with Jay Sebring, Abigail Folger, Wojciech Frykowski, and Stephen Parent,
Wow.
were brutally murdered at Cielo Drive.
It was a bloodbath.
It was a bloodbath. The details of the crime scene, as described in Chaos,
Yeah.
are chilling.
Chilling.
We learn about, the chilling words spoken by Tex Watson, one of Manson's followers,
Yeah.
who later testified that Manson ordered him to make the murders as gruesome as possible.
Oh, gosh.
It's truly horrifying.
Yeah.
But one of the things that always bothered me about the official story was the motive.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that Manson wanted to start a race war just never fully sat right with me.
I agree.
And O'Neill seems to agree.
He does.
He straight up accuses Vincent Bugliosi,
Oh,
a
wow.
prosecutor in the Manson case,
Okay.
and author of Helter Skelter, of fabricating evidence
Yeah.
to push the race war narrative.
Wow.
O'Neill even says Bugliosi threatened him to try and prevent the publication of Chaos.
That's intense.
Wow, that's intense. So if Helter Skelter wasn't the real motive, what was it?
Right.
Well, O'Neill points to a music producer named Terry Melcher,
Okay.
who had previously rejected Manson's music.
Interesting.
Turns out, Melcher knew Manson and the family much better than he admitted in court.
He did.
And not only that, but Tex Watson was actually familiar with 150 Cielo Drive
Wow.
because he had visited the house before.
He had. Okay.
O'Neill suggests that Manson might have ordered the murders as a twisted act of revenge against Melcher.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense
Yeah.
than that race war angle.
But hold on, because the very next night,
Oh.
Leno and Rosemary LaBianca were murdered in their home.
Oh, Wow.
Seemingly random victims, the writing on the walls, the misspelled helter-skelter.
Right?
It's all so disturbing and seemingly disconnected from the previous night's events.
Right, and those murders definitely muddy the waters and raise even more questions.
Yeah.
Was it still about revenge? Or was there something else entirely going on?
It just makes you wonder how much we really know about what happened.
Yeah.
Like, is there a bigger picture here that we're missing?
Makes you wonder, yeah.
Okay, so we've established that the official narrative about the Manson murders might not be the whole story.
Right.
And as we dig deeper into chaos,
Yeah.
it becomes clear that the world of 1960s Hollywood played a much bigger role in this whole saga than we initially thought.
Yeah. O'Neill paints a picture of Hollywood that goes way beyond the glitz and glamour.
Yeah.
He hints at a dark underbelly, a world of drug trafficking, sexual exploitation, and even ties to organized crime.
Yeah.
And 150 Cielo Drive, that iconic address,
Right.
becomes almost like a character in the story itself.
You know, it's interesting you say that because I always thought of that address as just a symbol of Hollywood tragedy.
Yeah,
But now I'm seeing it in a whole new light.
right.
Like, what really went on at that house?
Well, O'Neill raises some serious questions about the activities taking place there. And he even suggests that Sharon Tate, despite her beauty and fame,
Right.
was actually quite vulnerable. I mean, think about it. She was married to Roman Polanski,
Oh, yeah.
a man known for his dark and controversial films.
Yeah, Polanski definitely had a reputation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And O'Neill doesn't shy away from exploring Polanski's own behavior and the potential for secrets within their marriage.
Right.
It adds another layer of complexity to the story.
Okay, so we've got this potential darkness lurking beneath the surface of Hollywood.
Yeah.
And then you have the Manson family living on Spawn Movie Ranch,
Right.
which was basically this abandoned Western film set.
It was, yeah.
It's almost like they were living in their own twisted movie.
So like a movie within a movie.
Yeah.
It's important to remember the historical context here.
Right.
The late 1960s was a time of intense social and political upheaval. The Vietnam War was raging. There was widespread distrust of the government.
Right.
And the counterculture movement was challenging traditional values at every turn.
So in a way,
Yeah.
the Manson family, with their rejection of societal norms and their embrace of radical ideas,
Yeah.
were kind of a product of their time.
Absolutely. But they also represent the potential for idealism to turn into something dangerous and destructive. And Manson, with his charisma and manipulative tactics,
Right.
was a master at exploiting the vulnerabilities of his followers,
Yeah.
many of whom were young and searching for meaning and belonging.
It's almost like he gave them a warped sense of family, even if it meant committing horrific acts.
Right. He created this twisted us versus them mentality where
Yeah.
they felt justified in their actions because they believed they were part of something bigger,
Rather.
something revolutionary.
And then, of course, you have the media frenzy that followed the murders.
Oh,
The images of Manson with his wild eyes and the helter-skelter headlines plastered all over the news. It created this almost mythical figure of evil.
And that's exactly what O'Neill challenges in his book. He argues that the media played a significant role in shaping public perception of Manson and the murders, often relying on sensationalism and oversimplification.
He even calls the whole helter-skelter race war theory a convenient narrative that fit the anxieties of the time,
Yeah.
but ultimately didn't hold up under scrutiny.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what makes O'Neill's book so compelling.
Right.
He forces us to re-examine what we thought we knew about the Manson murders and consider the possibility that there were other motives at play.
Yeah.
Personal vendettas, drug deals gone wrong, or even, as we discussed earlier, the influence of those shadowy forces operating behind the scenes.
So it's not just a question of who committed the murders, but why.
Exactly.
And O'Neill's meticulous research and his willingness to challenge the official story opens up a whole new can of worms.
Oh, he does.
It makes you question everything.
You know, it's interesting because as I was reading Chaos,
Yeah.
I kept thinking about how similar O'Neill's investigation was to a detective novel.
Oh.
He encountered dead ends, uncooperative witnesses, and even received threats.
Wow.
It speaks to how difficult it can be to uncover the truth,
Right.
especially when powerful forces might be working to keep it hidden.
That's a great point. And it makes me wonder if a seasoned journalist like O'Neill faced so many obstacles,
Right.
what else might be out there?
Yeah.
What information is still buried or hidden from view?
It's a chilling thought, isn't it?
It definitely is.
The idea that there might be even more to this story than we realize.
And speaking of uncovering hidden truths, In the next part, we'll delve into O'Neill's investigative process and how his own journey to uncover the truth became as captivating as the case itself.
Okay.
Stay tuned. So we talked about the murders and the potential motives and the dark side of Hollywood in the 60s.
Right.
But one of the things that struck me about Chaos was how O'Neill doesn't just present like a counter-narrative.
Right.
He actually takes us inside his own investigation.
It's fascinating, right? He's incredibly transparent about his process.
The challenges he faced, the dead ends he hit, even the threats that he received.
Wow.
It's almost like a true crime thriller in itself.
Totally. Like reading about how he tracked down witnesses and pored over court transcripts and pieced together this massive puzzle.
Right.
It's gripping.
Yeah.
And it makes you realize just how difficult it can be to uncover the truth.
It is.
Especially when it comes to a case as complex and controversial as the Manson murders.
Absolutely.
It's a reminder that seeking the truth can be a dangerous endeavor.
It can be.
Especially when powerful forces might be working to keep it hidden.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, if someone like O'Neill, who dedicated over 20 years to this investigation, encountered so many obstacles.
What else might be out there?
Exactly.
What information is still hidden or buried that we may never know?
It's a chilling thought.
Yeah.
And it really speaks to the power of those in authority to control the narrative, to shape how we perceive events. And in the case of the Manson murders, it seems like the official story, the one presented by the prosecution and amplified by the media, became the dominant narrative.
It did.
Even though there were inconsistencies and unanswered questions.
And that narrative had a profound impact on society.
Yeah.
It reinforced fears about the counterculture, the dangers of social change, and the potential for seemingly ordinary people to commit horrific acts.
It's almost like the Manson case became this cautionary tale.
Yeah.
A warning about the dark side of the 1960s dream.
But what O'Neill does so brilliantly in Chaos is he forces us to re-examine that narrative.
Yeah.
To question our assumptions and consider the possibility that there's more to the story than we've been led to believe.
It's a powerful reminder that history is often written by the victors.
It is.
And that there are always multiple perspectives to consider.
Absolutely. And that's why I think this deep dive has been so fascinating. Yeah. It's not just about revisiting a notorious crime.
Right.
It's about exploring the complexities of truth, the power of narrative, and the enduring legacy of a truly turbulent era.
So as we wrap up our exploration into the world of Charles Manson and the shadow of the 1960s, I want to leave you with this. Don't settle for easy answers.
Right.
Question the narratives that you're presented with.
Keep searching.
Keep seeking the truth, even if it's elusive or uncomfortable.
Because as we've seen with this case, the truth can be a slippery thing.
Yeah.
Often hidden beneath layers of deception, manipulation, and maybe even conspiracy.
And sometimes the most disturbing truths are the ones that we're most reluctant to face.
It's true.
But confronting those truths is essential if we want to understand the past and learn from it.
Absolutely. We can't just shy away from the difficult questions.
Well said. And on that note, thank you for joining us on this journey.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Keep those questions coming and keep digging for those hidden truths. And we'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.